Hey guys, welcome to day 11 of Vlogmas, and it precipitated last night. Check this, I don't know if you can see in the background, but there's like, whoa, hello, dog took off. There's like snow on the ground. That's crazy. I knew that the rain sounded weird last night coming down, but I was not expecting this. Especially if I had known, I would not have taken both Anya and Brutus out at the same time because the back steps are slushy. So I'm gonna go let them back in the house, grab another dog, and then I will check back in with you guys for some Advent yarn opening. All right, see you in a bit. All right, so the dogs have all been fed and watered and had their little walks. It is gorgeous outside today. Now, even though we've got that slush on the ground, it's warm enough that I didn't even need my coat when I was out there. So absolutely gorgeous day. Got a lot done yesterday after I talked to you. So I ended up staying up until about 3:30 in the morning knitting. Probably poor choices, but I don't regret it at all. No regrets. I showed you yesterday how much I got done. By the way, apologies for yesterday's video being up a little bit late, but apparently the upload speeds at my house are absolute trash. So I'm gonna upload it when I get to work, but that's okay. But I moved my stitch marker after I showed you yesterday. That's how much I got done. So from there all the way up to there, I finished color number 3, started color number 4, which is this bright pink and yellow color. That's gorgeous. I did make a little bit of a mistake, but I don't know exactly where the mistake was, so I didn't feel like tearing back to fix it. Basically, which side was it on? I think it was this side. Maybe it's the other side. Maybe it's not that big of a deal if I can't tell anymore. I could tell last night and it bothered me a lot. Maybe we're okay. I don't know. Anyway, so there's this like lovely little lace pattern. I think it's gonna come out looking kind of like a feather and fan sort of deal. But on one of the sections, either this end or this end, I had 3 too many stitches. So I must have been forgetting to do the decrease stitch at the end, or I threw in like an extra, I don't know how many yarn overs in here. I must have been forgetting the decreases at the ends. So I had 3 extra stitches and I didn't know where in the color I put in the 3 extra stitches because the edge looks pretty smooth here. There's a little bump there, but not too bad. Let me see the other side. And that side looks pretty straight too. So I don't think you're gonna be able to tell. I just added in some extra decreases. Must have been that side, somewhere around there. So I just added in some extra decreases to make it work for the lace pattern. But I feel like it threw the lace pattern off by a stitch or 2 on the first row. And it was more noticeable last night when I was looking at it. Yeah, it's that side. So it's off just, you can see it, it's off just a little bit. And it's driving me nuts. But I think in the overall scheme of the scarf, and especially with such busy yarn, you're not gonna be able to tell. So I'm not gonna sweat it and we're not gonna worry about it and we're just gonna keep going. So I'll go ahead before I start knitting again and move up my stitch marker. And I'll probably actually grab my next color of yarn before I go to work to take that with me because I have a course that I'm taking through work that needs to be finished up today. And so I think there's gonna be lots of time for knitting while I'm watching all the little webinar videos for that. So that's progress on there. I also was able to finish my yarn that I made yesterday, last night. It's still a little bit damp, but I love how it came out. So I didn't have a place to hang up. My hooks that I normally hang these on wouldn't accommodate so much yarn. And so I actually put it in the spin dryer, which I think was a great choice. I was a little nervous about it, but I think it like made everything really nice and plushy. So at least it didn't hurt anything. So I really liked that. So it's not too wet right now. It is a little damp. So I ended up just laying it flat to dry last night. So you can see how balanced the yarn is, even without hanging under its own weight. I never, ever, 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 ever weight my yarns. So some people will say after you soak and you go to hang, if you have too much twist, or some people say do it all the time, they'll put like a weight on the bottom of it. They might like hook like a water bottle or something. a 5 pound, maybe not a 5 pound weight, that's too much, but they'll put a little weight on the bottom to help pull everything straight. But if your yarn's not balanced and you force it to be balanced in the drying process, the next time you wash that item, the next time it gets wet, it's gonna twist again. And so you've just kind of reversed everything. I think there might be an exception to weaving yarns. I feel like sometimes they might weight those to get the stretch out of it, so it's not as like bouncy on the loom. But don't quote me on that because I don't know and I've never done it before. I've actually never woven with my hand spun. That's on my list of things to do. But so that's the first round that I did, and I love how that came out. The second round has a little more twist in it. Remember we talked about that because I upped the speed. So it does still have some places where it's a little curly. You can see like up in that area, but it's not super bad. And the overall hank hangs straight. Now the fact that this one's a smaller hank, like circumference than the other one, is just because my yarn swift was at a different position when I was winding it on. All right, so I think I'm gonna have to respin this for the hat. It's just not close enough to the thickness of the rasta that I don't think it's gonna work for the hat pattern. But I think it might work for that brioche scarf I wanted to do. I don't know if I have enough yardage between the two to do the full scarf, but I'm thinking I can at least do a cowl length, like a long, like double wrap cowl. So let's go ahead and measure the yardage on this, and then we'll do the math and kind of see what we have. All right, so how I measure my yardage. So I used to take my Nitty Knotty and I would put the yarn on a swift and then reskein it on the Nitty Knotty, and I would count the number of wraps. But that's not perfect. There's not really a great perfect method if you don't have like a big machine that's doing it for you. Ivan Buddy, shh. Thank you, sir. So the problem with putting it on the Nitty Knotty is that your wraps aren't necessarily hitting that sweet spot of the 2 yards every single time. It does build up over time, so you're getting longer and longer wraps. Sometimes you get people who pull it too tight. I've got like a little bit of fluff that's hanging off my yarn. I don't like. Let me fix that. You might pull it too tight so it stretches, so you're artificially inflating the amount of yardage that you have. So what I've started doing, until I get myself a yardage counter, which I really want, I'm gonna lay it out like this. I wish I had like a good overhead, but I'm working on that. I'll tell you about that plan another day. But I've got this, and I'm gonna lay it straight down on my table. And then I've got myself a tape measure, and I'm gonna measure how long that loop is. Now I'm gonna leave it up straight, but I'm not gonna like pull it and stretch it. And I usually go to like the bottom of the loop, especially if it's thick with a lot of yarn. So chances are if you've bought hand spun from me, it's gonna tell you a certain amount of yardage, but you probably have more yardage than what is on the tag, because I'd rather have you be pleasantly surprised than lose to yarn chicken because I was overconfident with how much yarn I had. So this hank is 21 inches long, okay? So 21 inches long. I would double that. That means that my loop all the way around is actually 42. So now I'm going to I'll cut this part out because you don't need to watch me count. I'm gonna kind of count how many loops there are in that round. I'm gonna take the number of strands that I count here, multiply it by 41 to get the number of it. There's probably 42. There's probably an easier way to do this math, but we'll go the long way. So I'll multiply it by 42 to get the number of inches, divide it by 12 to get the number of feet, divide that by 3 to get the number of yards. So let me go count, and I'm gonna use the calculator on my phone so I know my math is correct, and I'll tell you how much yardage is in here. I'll be right back. All right, so I did all of my math, and it looks like this one, that's a little bit thinner, has about 186 yards in it, And then my other one that's slightly thicker has about 136 yards in it. I have no idea the difference in weight. I could weigh them up right now, but they still have water in them. They're still damp from when I soaked them. So it's not going to be 100% accurate because wool can hold a lot of its weight in water. So pure yardage wise, I would have enough of this one to do that scarf. It is a slightly thinner weight, so that might affect it a little bit. But because the pattern calls for 2 skeins of 2 different colors of Rasta, so that's 180 yards in 2 different colors. So the 136 is not going to get me there, but the 186 probably would. So what I might do is go ahead and do the pattern just to practice, and then if it's too short to be a scarf, seam the ends together and make it into a double wrap cowl. But I'm not ready for the pattern yet because I still have to dye it. But knowing that I'm doing the cowl might make a difference in the color that I want to dye it. I think it will. Yes. Okay, so I'm going to think about what colors I want for my new cowl. And then I will go from there. And then I think we'll respin some more of this. But I might try spinning it clockwise instead of counterclockwise and see if that helps me get any bulkier. This seems so thick as it is, but I need just a little bit more because we're going for that Rasta yarn. All right, so that's that. I will probably dye this up tonight. After I get home from work, it'll probably be dark by then, so I don't know how much I'll be able to show you, but I'll at least walk you through the process and show you, obviously, the finished product. So I'm gonna go ahead and set those guys to the side. And then, let's go ahead and put my tape measure away. There we go. And then, see, I showed you my yarn. Oh, I left my yarn scrap downstairs. I'll have to add that back to my bag because now I'll have 3 yarn scraps in my little scrappy bag. Let's go with advents for day 11. All right, so hedgehog fibers, day 11. And pull it out. Oh, it looks like we got another pink. Oh, like a pink and yellow. Oh, no. It's more goldy yellow than pink. This is interesting. That's a fun color. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at, this is our magpie fibers. That sounds like knot yarn in there today. All right. Oops. Yep. Employee card fell out, so it's not. This is a gift from Mandy, who is our hostess magpie with the mostest, and she is a Taurus. Oh, a delightful bowl for my stitch markers. I should never read the cards before I open the present, but that's okay. All right. Stitch marker bowl. They wrapped it up really well, which is probably good when you have people like me who shake things. Oh, that's cute. It looks like probably it's made out of cement would be my guess. And it's got that really pretty like little texture. And I adore this color. Like that is super cute. I don't have any. Oh, I do have stitch markers to test it out with. So I do like, so I love the Cocoa Knits ones. My favorite are these split ring markers. I use them all the time, especially in crochet. I also use, I think I have triangle ones right now on my project. The triangle ones are my other favorites. I don't know if you can see that against the background. Yeah. Ah, that is awesome. I love that. Normally I'm not into like, oh, you gave me just like more junk to sit around, but that's really pretty. I really like that. Well done, Mandy. Good choice. All right, so I'm gonna put those stitch markers back in the container. I'm gonna go ahead and wind up this off screen, and then I'm probably gonna go check on the sheep. Like I said, it rained like all day yesterday, and then apparently it turned into slush. So I'm gonna just go make sure that they have enough corn, check on their hay situation, and yeah, so we'll see them when we get there. I feel so unloved. The sheep don't even want to come over and say hello. Oh my goodness, guys. Oh my goodness. Sure, now you want to say hello. Oh my goodness, get down. Get down. Oh my goodness. All right. Looks like these little guys need some hay, so let's go find some hay and we'll give them some corn. They're mad. I forgot scissors in the car to cut the baling twine off of the hay. So I'm gonna walk back to the car and get some scissors. Chickens are looking good. That's not a chicken. I don't know what that is. Is that a quail? That's not a quail. Guinea fowl? I don't know. I don't know my poultry. Their poor coop got a little wet last night with all the rain and the sludge, but they look happy. Shh. They look happy up on their roost. Mr. Rooster's over there, very vocal. I always think it's funny that we spend all of our time trying to get rid of the grass in our yard and yet pay hundreds of dollars for somebody else's grass. But beautifully stocked barn. Let me grab a bale. So does anyone else have a feeder like this? Now, I can get the bale of hay in, but how do I make sure I can get the baling twine off? Rather than play with it today, I'm just gonna cut it out here and toss the hay in and hope that works. Fingers crossed. All right, that worked. I almost accidentally threw the twine in anyway, but I got it back out. I think I ended up with more hay on this sheep than in the feeder, but that's okay. Everybody's happy. Hay check, water check, corn check. Don't mind my shadow. Got some happy sheep, and now I get to go to work. Bye guys. guys. So I did not intend to vlog anymore tonight. Looking a little rough, but that's okay. But I did want to come back on because I actually accomplished something and I'm pretty proud. So I worked on dyeing my 2 skeins of yarn that you saw earlier. One of them, my goal was to do like a really dark charcoal bordering on like lilac, like a dark, I don't know. Yeah. So like a dark charcoal that leaned toward the purple direction. I think I might have put too much black in it. I don't know if you can see the lilac at all, but I'm not going to be able to tell for sure until it actually dries. But so basically how I dyed my yarn, I'm gonna set this down for a second. I took some pictures and videos and some stuff, so I'll see if I can kind of post it in here at the same time. But for that semi-solid, which is the really dark charcoal / almost hint of lilac sort of thing I was going for, because it uses a lot of dye, I don't use my pre-mixed dyes. I go straight to my dye powder. And so for this particular one, I did, again, this is a little bit kind of eyeballing it because I wasn't sure exactly how much each skein weighed because it still was a little bit damp from last night when I actually finished it. So I did 2 grams of jet black dye powder and 1 gram of the lilac. I wish I had put a little bit more lilac in there. Maybe 2 and 2, or knocked the, no, I did 1.5. I did 1.5 of the lilac. I'm thinking I ought to have done a little bit more and cut back on the black a little bit, but we'll see what it looks like when it's all finished. So that one I did not re-soak. It was still damp. It probably needed a little bit more soak time, but it worked out fine. So I basically filled my giant stock pot like 2/3 of the way up, put my dye powder into a mason jar, added just a little bit of hot water to it, mixed it to kind of make a little bit of a paste, get everything dissolving. Then I filled up the jar a little bit more, gave it a good mix. Then I added in my citric acid. You can add the acid different places in the process. This particular one, I put it right in with the dye. I knew because the color was going to be really dark and saturated, it was going to take a while to completely soak in anyway, so I wasn't worried about it getting soaked up too fast. So I gave that all a good mix, make sure it was all dissolved, put it into my pot, mixed it all up in the pot. Actually, I think I forgot to mix it in the pot, to be honest. I like dipped the jar in to move it around, but I can't remember if I actually stirred the pot or not, but that's okay. I also forgot to put zip ties on my skeins. I don't know if they would have fit because my zip ties aren't that big and the skeins were kind of big, but it's going to be a mess pulling them out and rinsing them, but I'm not worrying about that right now. So I stuck in the pot, used my tongs to kind of press it down, and then started heating it up, put a lid on top. It's actually still heating right now. At the 40-minute mark of heating, all the dye had exhausted, but I always like to make sure that it's gone a little bit longer. Once I turn the heat off, it'll still sit on the stove overnight. I don't plan on actually rinsing it tonight anyway, so it'll be fine. So it'll have extra time to cool down and set. The second one, I had a vision in my head. I had dyed some top a while ago in my dried lavender colorway, and I kind of wanted the base color of that, the way it looked. And I did that by basically taking my base colors, mixing them in a lot of water, and then I would pour it on and kind of use my hands to press the very pale dye water around because I wanted it to have like the dark charcoal and then like a pale blue, pink, burgundy, lavender sort of contrast when I go to do the brioche scarf. But I went to go mix my burgundy and it looked black, like it wasn't burgundy. So I'm wondering if I accidentally made a jar of jet black and put it in the burgundy container. I don't know, it was weird. So I dumped that out. And then I didn't have more mixed. And I was like, oh, well, I don't want to like make a full set of dye for like 5 milliliters. It probably wouldn't have taken that long. I totally could have, but I wasn't feeling it. So I wanted to try something different. So I went and I put a little bit more water in my pan so it wasn't like a super low immersion anymore. It actually had like some room to flow around. And then I took some dye, sprinkled it, and then used my cocktail stirrer to kind of press it down and spread it out. And then I did that in a couple of places and I'm like, oh, it's just looking too dark. And then I took some navy dye powder, took some navy dye powder, scooched the yarn over a little bit and then put the navy dye powder like right in the water. and then started mixing that around. And I'm like, well, now it's really like really dark. And now it looks like 4th of July because there's the burgundy and the blue. And I'm like, oh, so stupid. And so I got mad. And so I just kind of like squished it all around, and it really spread the navy dye out. And now it looks really nice. So I think it's going to be okay when it comes out. But that one set up really, really quickly because there wasn't a whole lot of dye in the pot. But I let that one set for a while too. Then I remembered that I'd come upstairs and turned the light on so that I would remember to come up here and actually work. And so I was like, shucks, I have to go upstairs and turn the light off before I go to bed. And then I was like, well, while I'm up here, I might as well do some more yarn. So I measured out 200 grams of my Polworth in silk. And I think I got it this time, guys. Check that out. So that I think is much closer. Might have actually gone too thick. I think it's gonna be really close to my Rasta. There are still a few like kind of thinner sections, but I think it's gonna be okay. And then this one's like hardly twisted right here. So I'm hoping that sets up okay. I don't know why that's so not twisted. But anyway, I think it looks great. Fingers crossed. I'm gonna go downstairs, set this, and then lay this out to dry, and then we'll play with this one tomorrow. All right, good night this time, and I will see you guys tomorrow.